All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Q&A, your daily dose of coffee Q&A here on the Onocoffee channel. And today we're talking about Ube Flan. Ube Flan is a dessert for the Philippines that's kind of made with a twist. There is a dessert that's traditional called Leche Flan, which is kind of like a custard or a flan that you may have from other places. And it's very popular in Filipino culture as well. And this weekend I had to go to a party on Saturday, so I thought, let me make something that's going to be a little bit desserty, but also with a little bit of a twist. So hope you're doing well. Hope everything's good. What's going on? Hope your weekend was a good one. We had what do we have going on this weekend? We had the Super Bowl, where we had the party on Saturday, and then Super Bowl on yesterday. Mom, how are you? Kent, good to see you. I am wearing purple today, not because... even though it is a Ravens jersey, American football jersey, and even though we did have Super Bowl yesterday, this really wasn't the idea for a commentary on that. It's really because ube, which is a Filipino tuber that's used in desserts of all types, I think we've talked about in the past, is purple. And so I was like, oh, what kind of thing can I have as purple? I was like, oh, I've got this jersey or this sweatshirt, the only purple. It's actually kind of one of the few purple items that I have. And so I dug it out of the closet, haven't worn it in a few years. I put it on and man, I'm swimming in it. Look at this thing. I'm swimming in this thing. It's crazy. So yeah, that's purple for ube. And so today we've got this ube. Here, let me show you what I've got. Oh, let's go back. So it's a flan, and if you're familiar with flans are very simple recipes. They're custards. You use eggs, and you use sugar, and then milks to make it happen. And it's just such a simple and easy thing. And this particular recipe that we'll be using, the base recipe is 8 egg yolks with a can of sweetened condensed milk, and then a can of evaporated milk. And if you want, you could put a little bit of vanilla. You don't have to, but that's pretty much it. That's it. You just mix it all together. You pour it into a pan that has caramel at the bottom. Like you make caramel first, and you put that at the bottom of a pan. You pour this in, and then you put it into a water bath, and you cook it for like an hour, and then you're done. And it just produces this beautiful textured custard that is really, really lovely. And here in America, Naomi, how are you? We've had this thing called, the ube has taken a lot of, it's kind of captured the culinary zeitgeist in many respects here in the United States. So a lot of people have been playing with ube, a lot of chefs adding ube to their food items. And the sad thing is that while ube consumption or while ube demand in cuisine has skyrocketed over the last 10 years, actual ube production has diminished, right? It's gone down. There's less demand for ube, the tuber, in the Philippines, where it's still the only place that it's grown, is dramatically down. Why is this? Because most everyone is using artificial flavorings instead of actually using the tuber, which is a really a sad state of affairs that, you've got this great, cultural awareness of this food product, and no one's using the food product. It's very, very strange. Russell, how are you, man? Good to see you. So I thought we use it. And I think the product that I'm using today is also one of those artificially flavored products. And so where does this diverge? Let me show you. I've got a little bit left of it here from the party. I had this big sheet of it, and so to my surprise, well, there was a lot of food. To my defense, there was a lot of food, but I was really surprised that people didn't tear into it. Like normally, I don't get to take the Leche Flan home because usually people tear into it. But I also think that maybe some people were a little bit, didn't know what, actually some of my friends didn't know what to think of it. They were like, well, what is that? I said, what does it look like to you? And they're like, well, it looks kind of like ube, maybe as a flan. And I was like, well, you should try it. And they liked it, but it was like, it just looks so different than what they were used to. Instead of that yellow and like caramel colored thing, it looks like this weird purple, black, brown, whatever, greenish. The caramel actually kind of gives it a greenish tint in the light. So it's perhaps not as appetizing looking as it could be. That's unfortunate. maybe the way to do this in future is to layer it somehow. There's a layering technique that I have to try where you can layer 2 layers of ube or 2 layers of flan, and then maybe layer them so that they'll be yellow and purple or dark, and then that could be kind of something, who knows? But yeah, we're gonna get into that with some coffee, of course. But it's really easy to make. So you take 8 egg yolks, separate them. Well, first of all, what you do is you get a 3/4 cups of sugar, put that into a pan, and start to heat that over medium, high heat. Just what you're trying to do is to caramelize the sugar, right? So once the sugar starts, and it takes a while, right? You shouldn't go too hot, just kind of medium hot, medium high, and you cook it, and it's just cooking. You're like wondering what's happening. Basically, it'll reach a point where it gets super hot, where it gets to a temperature, and then it starts to go very rapidly from there. Then it starts to break down and become caramelized color, and then you just kind of slowly let it, melt and caramelize and become brown. And then you take that and you pour that into your loaf pan or whatever kind of pan you're going to be using, and you coat the entire bottom of the pan with the sugar, the melted sugar. And so then once you've done that, put that aside. Then you take your 8 egg yolks, can of evaporated milk, can of sweetened condensed milk, mix that all together, whisk it all together, make sure it's nicely well combined, pour that in on top of the caramel. Take that, put that into a larger pan, into a bane, what we call a bane, but basically what you're taking your pan, you're putting to a larger pan that has water. You basically are cooking with a water bath into the oven for half an hour at like 375. And then you cook it for half an hour. Then after half an hour, you pull it out, and then you want to cover the top of your pan with some foil. And basically what you're doing is you're just trying to reduce the amount of heat that's directly hitting the top of your flan, because then it starts to dry out, it starts to burn a little bit. So if you want to get that maybe like Basque cheesecake kind of thing to it, you could just let it run. But it's better. It gives you a nicer, smoother texture just to like cover it. Now in this particular case, how did we get the ube? You can add ube in many different ways. There's many ways to add it, but in this case, I just took a very easy shortcut. Over the last like several years, there's a couple companies in the Philippines that produce milks, sweetened condensed milk, that have flavored the sweetened condensed milk. So they'll put things like pandan flavoring. In this case, they had ube flavor, and there's a particular brand that I use for this one called Jersey, which there's 2. There's Jersey, and then there's another cow brand that I can't remember. I can see the label. It's white, and then the Jersey one has a red label. But either will work. They're going to have slightly different flavor profiles because, different products have different flavor profiles. So you can use that. The Mac Geeks with us, good morning to you. How are you doing? And you just mix that. So I use that instead of straight up sweetened condensed milk. And that's how we worked the ube flavor into it. So it was a little bit of a cheat, I think, to do it that way, instead of taking fresh ube tuber, grating it, and then, mixing that in. That would have probably been the more hardcore way to do it, instead of this cheating way of using artificially flavored ube. But what can you do? Espresso on Bikes is come with us from Houston. How are you, man? Good to see you. So that's our ube, and then we're gonna have that, and then we're gonna have some coffee with it, because why not have coffee on a coffee show? Because I don't have anything else to do, so make coffee. But so how's everything? How was your weekend? Was it good? So the party was Saturday. Great turnout, huge amounts of food. Like, you go to Filipino parties, man, they always have a lot of food. It's like, I don't even know why I brought food. Like, I said, they're like, it's potluck if you want to bring some. And I was like, I better bring the flan. So I brought that, which is kind of a nice thing. But really, my God, I couldn't. It's one of those things where there's so many foods that even if you were to, and I didn't try this, they were like, if I tried a little bite of every dish that was available, you'd be full. You just couldn't handle it, right? It's just too much. So I decided to concentrate on a few items, right? One of the guys had made what they call Cebu-style lechon belly. So they take the belly of the pork, right? They season it, salt, pepper, whatever, and then they mix it with, they roll it, skin side out, they roll it, but on the inside they have different herbs like lemongrass and I don't know what else he put in, and I didn't really pay attention to what he put into it, but he put all this stuff in it, and you roll it, and he roasts it. And when you do it right, and you tie it, right? You tie it, and then you roast it, and the skin is beautifully brown and crisp and crunchy. And I got there just as he was carving it, and he was like, "You want something?" I was like, "Yeah, man." So I had one. Maybe, I don't know. It was just one of those serendipitous moments where he had cooked the meat just to perfection, like that unctuous, like juicy, and just the right seasoning. Everything was just perfection. I was like, it's one of the best lechons that I've had ever. And I was like, my God, man. So instead of like, enjoying all the delights of the table, I ended up focusing mainly on the lechon. I was like, okay, let me have more pork and more crispy pork skin and a little bit of rice to go with it. Filipinos gotta have rice. We gotta have rice. We always have rice. Rice is the number one thing. Like when I moved to Honolulu years ago, that was the greatest thing about living in Honolulu, was that you can get rice anywhere. Anywhere you went, there was rice. Even if I went to Morton's Steakhouse, I could get rice. I was like, and not that rice pilaf stuff. I mean, I'm a whore for rice, so I'll eat any rice that's available, but rice pilaf, okay, fine. Uncle Ben's, I'll have that. If that's all you have, I will take that. But when you go to when you're in Hawaii, there's like at Morton's, they've got like proper steamed rice. My God. Give me some rice and give me some French fries together. Perfect. It's a perfect meal. It's a perfect meal. Power plants with us. Good morning to you. And Naomi says, do you think ube and beni imo, Okinawan purple sweet potato, be used interchange? I don't see why you would not be able to use them. I mean, they're going to have different flavor profiles, but I mean, yeah, use them. I would not worry too much about getting hung up in like, oh, this is beni imo and this is ube, and they're not the same. Do they taste good? That's all that matters. Does it taste good? Like, you don't have to worry about trying to be hyper traditional in things like that. I think just, use it. Whatever tastes great. And I don't know if you do this yourself, but I learned this technique quite a while ago. One of my Japanese friends was like, she was like, if you want to get the good, like, and and Power Plant knows this very well, I'm sure, that the sweet potato is very popular in Japanese cuisine, like just the roasting of it. And my friend years ago, she was like, if you want to do it right, I said, what? She's like, take the sweet potato, put it in your freezer and let it become frozen, and then take it and put it in your oven for an hour. And I was like, what? And, at the time it was a total revelation to me, because I guess the freezing the cell structure of the sweet potato crystallizes, the slow freezing crystallizes everything, and it breaks the cell structure, because it becomes so much more creamy and so much more beautiful texture for the sweet potato. Now, I've only tried that with Japanese sweet potatoes. I've not tried that with American sweet potatoes, but I imagine that would be very similar. So if you want to have nice roasted sweet potato, try that. Take it, put it in the freezer, let it totally freeze it, then put it in your oven, 375, 400 degrees, or whatever you cook it at. Roast that for an hour. 10 minutes in the microwave. Probably the microwave will even work as well, too. So Naomi's asking, what type of rice is the main go-to rice? So it's interesting, the rice in the Philippines is such a very interesting and sadly strange subject, meaning that, like, my part of my family comes from the rice growing region of the Philippines. So rice is a big part. Like my mom's mom was a big rice buyer. Like she ran a rice mill that she would buy rice from the field. And it's very similar in many respects to the coffee business. Like there's farmers that produce the rice, that grow the rice. They plant the rice, they cultivate it, they harvest it, and then they bring it to someone like my grandmother who owned the rice mill. She would buy, and that rice they would take it off the stalks, right? And they'd bring it to her in sacks of what's called palay. And the palay is basically the rice that's dried, because they'll dry it themselves. And they'll remove it from the stalk, dry it on whatever they have, and they'll bring that palai to my grandmother, and she would sit there. When I was a really young child and we were visiting, like I remember watching her, she would sit there and she would take a sample of the rice, she would chew it. Now, I mean, I didn't have the language to speak with her about this, and for her to, and I didn't even understand. But she would chew the rice. And I asked my cousins who were older about this years later. Like they're like, "Oh yeah, Lola used to do that." And I was like, so she would chew the rice to ascertain the quality or whatever she's ascertaining about the rice. And I guess she would use that evaluation and make an offer to the farmer about the rice. So, interestingly enough, the Philippine rice trade there's a lot of different varietals. And I remember when I was looking into this several years ago, there was a lot of varietals that we just, like in Japan, the big, and here also in the United States, one of the big varietals of rice is something called koshihikari. And koshihikari is a type of, medium, shorter grained rice that has a good bit of starch. That tends to be what a lot of people will call sticky rice, which you can't tell that to me because like Asian people, we think sticky rice and we think like more that mochi kind of rice, right? That really like glutinous rice. So, but the varietals that they talked about, if you go to the markets in the Philippines and you look at the different varietals that are available, they're very different. And the Philippines is interesting because, the Philippines has a large population of people in lower economic classes. So what you see in a lot of the markets, especially the more local markets, is these rice varietals that I was not familiar with number designations that I'd never heard of. And why would I have heard it? I'm by no means am I anywhere an expert in rice or anywhere even close to the rice industry. But you would look at some of these and you see different price tiers at these markets, and you could tell some of them were whole kernels. A lot of them were not whole kernels. They were broken rices, different degrees of broken. So the more broken the rice grain, the lower the price per kilo. And so the more whole grain, the higher the price. So a lot of what you'd see at a lot of these markets is lower quality rices, more broken grains, because it's more affordable to the populace. So it's not koshihikari, but I don't know, but there are like, evidently there's thousands of varietals of rice out there. So I've only had very limited experience. Personally speaking, the rice that they have there, a lot of the common rices, they tend to be very grainy in character as far as like the texture, right? So if you can imagine like a typical, let's say we have an average koshihikari type of rice, that Japanese style of rice. It's very fluffy. It's very hydrated, right? A typical, let's say, mass market rice in the Philippines tends to be a lot drier, not as sticky, not as, there's enough starch in some of this koshihikari and other types of rice that it really clumps together well. It still clumps, but it doesn't clump in the same way. It's a little bit more of a rougher grain, a rougher starchiness, right? If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but kind of like that. Power Plant says, my favorite pork belly is the Cantonese roast pork belly. They get crazy, crispy skin. Oh, that is nice stuff. That is nice stuff, too. Russell says, when I was attending school in Chicago, I remember going to Filipino dance parties, a large spread of food. We would eat, then dance, and then eat again. Yes, you should always, there's always eating and dancing. And then my group of friends, they don't dance. They're not dancers. At least this one group, they're not. They're not that. Actually, it was kind of funny because it was the kids who wanted to have a karaoke party, right? So after the kids were done, then it was like the old folk were like doing karaoke. And one of my friends, he was like, well, what do you want? He was putting on I forgot what he put on, but he put on, I was like, man, we put on some of that Nothing But a G thing, right? And so we were like, doing karaoke of Nothing But a G Thing. Those of you who are not familiar with Nothing But a G Thing, it's one of the most classic tracks from 1992. Dr. Dre he wasn't even at his zenith yet. Like he was just emerging. And like, man, that album, The Chronic, hit like, and some of my friends, they're my contemporaries, right? And so, man, I remember one of them, and we did like the Nothing But a G thing, Warren G's Regulate, which is another like late 80s kind of like rap, like yeah, also West Coast rap, right? Warren G and Nate Dogg and Warren G had to regulate, right? I don't know if you're familiar with that. Anyway, and some of my friends, they were like, I never even heard that. So I was like, you never heard? Where have you been living for the last? I was like, what are you talking about, man? I was like, oh gosh, they've been living like prep school kids. You know, I tell you, they just live these like very, 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 very protected lives. They live very protected lives. I'm glad I didn't live that protected. Let's see here. Power Plant says it just the glass cabinet and stays hot and nice all day. I can get Japanese sweet potatoes here, says Naomi, but definitely not the purple fleshed ones. I mean, I wouldn't worry too. I mean, like the purple ones are the purple ones, the ube ones are good. If you really want to try it, like you can order. If you wanted to, let's say, make this, you could order the cans of the sweet condensed milk, or just the ube flavoring. You could order that online at like Amazon or something. Actually, I have to put the links for the products below. I haven't put them down yet, but it is available. If you wanted to try what this is like, it's very, very, these are very simple recipes. It does take a little bit of, it may take a little bit of like, finesse. Like, we've been making this recipe for many, many years. So it's like, doesn't take a lot of effort to make, but maybe, I don't think it's too difficult. It should be very simple. I do have a recipe from a group called Panlasang Pinoy, listed down below as well. And Panlasang Pinoy is a website. They also have a YouTube channel that does like Filipino recipes of different Philippine cuisines. I think they're very good. Overall, they tend to be very good. I looked over the recipe for this one, and it uses more eggs, so it's going to be a little bit thicker, right? I want to have a balance. Like I want to have cream in. Like I don't want it to be super, super light like French flan, right? I mean, I love that, but for leche flan, for Filipino leche flan, I want it to have some toothiness, a little bit of like resistance. But a lot of times I'll have leche flan from people, and it's a lot of resistance. Like it's just very like, not quite cakey, but more kind of approaching the texture of fudge, which I like a little more creaminess, right? But then it goes back to matter of personal taste, right? Power Plant says, it's funny you said Benny Imo, Naomi. That's definitely the Hojin word in Okinawa. Well, she is from Okinawa, so yeah, definitely. In Japan, especially in rural areas, like where I live, they have rice milling stations all over the place. Little phone booth-sized places where you dump in raw rice and it hulls and polishes. I've seen those. I went to where did I go? I was on a trip to Manila one year, and I was flying through Connecticut. United flies to Narita, and then we fly onward to Manila. And whenever I do those trips, I always try to like work like 2 or 3 days in Tokyo just to hang out. So I was planning so I was going to stop on the way back, and on the way down, I'm watching this video on ANA Airways, right? And there was a video about Tokyo stuff, and they had this video that year about rice from the Edo region, rice from the Tokyo region. I was like, rice from the Tokyo region, and the way they showed this rice, I was like, my God, man, I need to go hunt this down. And they gave the name of the shop in Suginami City, which is a place called Morita Ya Rice Shop. And I remember I looked it up because I was staying in Ginza, or I was staying in Shimbashi, Ginza area. And it was like an hour and a half to get there, right, on the train. And I was like, well, I got to go get it. I trucked all the way out there, took a train, took a bus. It's actually no, that's not right. I was going to say it's very close. It's not close. That was another trip. But anyway, I got out there, and like this woman, she's like showing me these rices, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. But first time I had ever seen that you could have the rice hulled to your specification when you buy it. I was like, wow, this is brilliant. Like I'm just used to it's here in the United States, you know how it is. It's either polished or brown. And you don't normally get a choice, like meaning that you don't like, it's not like you can say, I've got this particular rice and I would like to have it brown. or or vice versa. Where there you could be like, if you want to leave it brown and leave all the bran on, no problem. If you want to mill off a percentage of the bran, no problem as well. And I was like, wow, this is brilliant. Like, I need more of this in my life. And yeah, you're right. They had these like machines, these milling machines, polishing machines that were like, I was like, whoa, that's awesome. Prabhupada says Kushi Curry was developed in Niigata Prefecture and is a standard bearer for normal rice in Japan. Yeah, and I like it. I like it. We have that. We have a lot of that grown here in California, and I think they grow a bit of it even in the Carolinas. Is that right? What is considered one step up from normal? Well, I mean, like this is why I was so interested at this rice shop, and this is true of like there's many different rice shops. I just happened to hear about this one, and I wanted to get this very specific one from this farmer that they mentioned. And the interesting thing was that I went to this shop and it was like, oh my gosh, it's like the coffee world, right? Where they had this big display of the different rices in little bags, and they had these little cards sticking out of them that had information about the farms and the farmer and photos of the farmer. And I was like, well, there's the guy. That's amazing. And like, there's so many different varieties, so many different things. Now, of course, it's all in the kana, so I can't read it, but I'm just kind of like, well, that's the dude. That's the one. I took some screenshots of whatever information was on the video on the flight back to Tokyo. And I was like, okay, I got to go find this. But there's so many. And then the last time I was there, we went to a rice shop in what city was I in? I was visiting my friends, and there's a video about going to the rice shop, I think, on the channel that because I wanted to have a rice from where was I? The prefecture starts with T, I think. God, this is terrible. I can't remember. Anyway, but they had this. So at this rice shop, again, nice another rice shop, multiple varieties to choose from, and they had this thing called milk. What was known for that region, what was grown there, was something called milky rice. So there's regional specific, there's regional specific types of rices. It's really just such a fascinating. Rice is such a fascinating topic. Like even like in the Philippines, like. Like my grandmother was into rice. Some of my cousins got into the rice business too. And so, we would tour some of the facilities when I was there years ago. And it's like so many varietals. You're like, wow, how can you try it? How can you try it all? I can't. I would love to. Prabhupada says, well, I should explain that Kushi Curry is a patented seed and it can be affected by farming techniques and land quality. So it's medium grain or long grain rice type in the Philippines. Philippines is all medium grain. Yeah, I would not say they're long. America is really American South is much more of a long grain world than the rest of us. Yeah, that is one influence of America that did not permeate in the Philippines. Thank God. Like I said, I'll eat Uncle Ben's. I'll eat rice pilaf. I'll eat rice-a-roni and all that stuff, if that's my only choice. Like, if that's my choice, if that's all that you got for me, I'll eat it, and I'll eat it very happily. But man, I will not choose that. I will typically not choose that normally, right? Like even the Mexican rice, the Latino rice, they're starting to get a little bit longer. I'm like, okay, we need a little bit more starchiness to the rice here. Says my friend's husband was from the Philippines and he always wanted jasmine rice. So I thought, oh no, jasmine. I think jasmine rice for Filipino cuisine. I hate jasmine rice. Hate it. Like I'm just like, oh God. Like I'll go to friends' houses and they'll put jasmine rice on when they're like, one of my friends, she makes Filipino food and she'll like make jasmine rice. And I won't complain. Okay, like I said, I don't complain about rice, right? If you gave me potatoes, I might complain. But if you give me rice, well, I guess I won't complain. But the jasmine rice is fragrant, right? It has that fragrance to the jasmine rice, which is fine for Thai food. Like, okay, that's fine for Thai food, not for Filipino food. I don't like it for Filipino. I will eat it. Like I said, I will eat it. I'm not I mean, I'm not stupid. Like, I'm not going to say no to it, right? But no says, I was just curious about the ube, but don't want to make anything. I'd rather have the sweet potato. I think ube is a yam and hadn't liked a lot of yams. I mean, yeah, well, it is a yam. You're right. It is a yam. And if you don't like yam, I mean, honestly, I tend to not be very discerning between the two. Like, I'm more of a charlatan in that respect, right? Prabhupada says, personally, I love long-aged basmati rice. Until you've had a real long-aged basmati rice, you have not had basmati rice. Too loose for me. But, I'll eat, like I said, I'll eat anything. Like the basmati rice, like, for example, they do long grain rice in the Middle East. It's very popular there. And, I had always fashioned myself as a rice, if you're Asian, so you think you're like, well, I'm a rice expert. Like, I'm an expert in rice. I can eat any rice. I'm Filipino. I can eat rice with my hands, what we call Kamayan style, right? So you can eat with your hands. I'm well suited to travel the world and eat any kind of rice, meet any rice demand, right? Then I go to the Middle East, and they have something called kibsa. And one of my friends there, she's always like, you love the kibsa. I was like, I do. It's really great. But so kibsa can be made, it's kind of Yemeni in origin, but it's earthen oven cooking where there's chicken kibsa, there's lamb kibsa, there's even camel kibsa. The camel is very popular. I've had all of them. But you sit down on the floor, which, especially, man, it's tough to sit on the floor. But their rice, which is more of this basmati, moving to the basmati type of rice, and the basmati is very loose. And they don't use utensils. You use your hands. And if you ever eat basmati rice or long grain rice as a person with your hands, man, it's very difficult. Like, you've got to, when you have sticky rice or starchy rice, you can use your hands like this and you can clump it and eat it, right? It's very easy to use. But man, you get this loose rice. Like, even my friends that are Indian, but their rice, they're eating it something like this. Like the Saudi guys are like kind of like this, and then they'll even like ball it, which is completely foreign to me, right? So I'm trying to eat this. I'm trying to eat it like this, which is bad technique, right? For this rice, it's horrible technique because I'm trying to eat it in the context that I can eat it, and the other guys are like mounding it. They're feeding it somehow. I'm still not very good at it. But, man, like, I was totally like, I'm a rice expert. Like, I've been eating rice all my life. I'm totally, like, all those people that don't know how to eat rice with their hands, a bunch of retards out there, right? And here I am. I'm the one that's kind of like that. And it's all like, I'm all like, trying to eat this rice, and rice since it's so loose, it's everywhere. Like, it's everywhere. It's all over me. Like, it's just like, it's on the floor, it's on the tray. It's just like, and the thing about that rice that they have there, they put some saffron, right? So they'll put like the white rice, and then they'll take some of that rice and they'll mix it with saffron, right? So they kind of yellow. So then they'll put that on top of the white rice. So now it's like, you've got this highlighted rice. And that's all over the place. So no, you can't like hide the fact that you're like, you can't eat the rice, and it's just everywhere. And you're just kind of like, I'm an idiot, It's really terrible. I'm getting closer to being good at eating that style of rice with my hands. Very close. And then but then when I was hanging out with one of my friends who's from India, Gautam, and we're eating. And like, Indians are very specific. Like I know Indians, American Indians, meaning that subcontinent Indians that grew up in America, right? So they're very American. They're like me. They're very American. Whereas, when I have them, some of my other friends that I know, they're actually Indians who are from India. Like, they're from there, right? And so I was with one of them, Gautam, and he's like, yeah, we're eating one day. We're all out eating, and and he's very specific. Like, we're eating with our hands at this Afghani restaurant. And he's very specific, only the right hand. And I was watching it, and I was like, I mean, I understand. I understood why, right? Like, so if you're not familiar, if you use a lot of cultures will not use their left hand because it's the dirty hand, right, for washing yourself, and they only use the right hand. But I was like, the level of discipline that he executed for this meal, I was like, whoa, man, I've never seen that. Like my Indian friends here, they're all like, I don't know. Right? That was just a weird tangent. Pamphlet says it's a beautiful product. There will be even the bags that hold the rice. Oh yeah, the burlap bags are very nice. They're very nice. You know, he says I'm half afraid to buy high-end Japanese rice because I might like it. And actually, when I started buying some of these really fancier Japanese rices, what stressed me the most was it wasn't the fact that like maybe I couldn't get or that it would be expensive. Is that I was okay with it being pricey. Because I figured it would be like I could only get it every blue moon because I can't get it here. I'd be getting it while I was traveling, right? So it's like, well, that's just how it is. What stressed me the most was that since this is supposed to be like nice or high quality rice, was that I didn't want to muck it up. So I was like, I need to learn how to make it in the clay pot and do it correctly so I can give it the proper respect. It was a very stressful time. I was like I had to order the pot. What was it called? I can't remember the name of the pot, but the pot. And practice with lesser rices to get the technique correct and get the right. I forgot what you guys, I don't know what the term is in Japan. I don't remember what, but you know how like the rice, in the Philippines, we call it titong. And it's where the rice crusts and burns, not burns, but it's crusts over on the bottom. It's very prized. Like all cultures have this, right? All cultures that have rice have this prized effect on that kind of crusty burned rice at the bottom of a pan. Saudi people love that too. Like everybody loves it. Everybody's trying to like get a little bit of that. And so I was like, oh, that's very interesting. Power Plant says Zujiri sells a rice polishing machine, so you can buy brown rice and polish it. But you can't buy any. The selection of rices in America is not very, I mean, it's not, we don't have that kind of, at least I haven't found a place that has that kind of selection. So while I do love the idea though. Matt Geek says, I don't know, rice can be so varied and unique with so many. I mean, it's like coffee, right? It's very much like coffee. So many different varietals, so many ways of processing it. So, you know, as with anything, like there's just so many, like any subject matter can be delved into very, very deeply with like a mind-boggling array of like options, right? So it's just like that. It's probably better not to get too into it. Busa says that Cal Rose is my current. Cal Rose is a solid rice. I think I want to say that Cal Rose is also a koshihikari based rice. I'm not 100% sure. I should look. Hey Siri, what variety of rice is Cal Rose? See if it knows. Yes. Use ChatGPT.
ChatGPT asks, I'm sorry, but I couldn't find any information on a rice variety named Crows.
Crows. Like Cameron Crow. Not like Cameron Crow, but Cal Rose. All right, we're just going to punch it in. See, sometimes it's just so much easier just to go straight into it. Cal Rose rice variety. I don't really like they just updated my phone with the new OS. And I don't really like it. It's not as straightforward for everything. Medium grain japonica rice. It just says it's a Japanese origin rice. It could be koshihikari. I thought it might have been, but maybe it's not. Or maybe Cal Rose. Like there's actually, now that I'm looking here, right, there's a whole bunch of, like there's Buhan, there's home. Homai, Satsuki, different type of, and they're all maybe Cal Rose is also a varietal, like a California-based varietal of japonica rice. What type of rice? Medium grain variety of the California. Oh, so here it says here under Wikipedia, it says that Cal Rose is a medium grain rice variety notable for being the founding variety of the California rice industry. Let's see what they say. History. Originated from the rice experiment station near Biggs, California, and released in 1948. And so I guess it's a Japanese-based rice, but has, I guess, been hybridized or cultivated to grow well in California. So I think that's pretty much what it is. it is different than the koshikari rice. Naomi says, yes, he loved the smell of the jasmine rice, whereas I did not, nor did my friend. I can eat it, but I don't want. I don't necessarily mind the smell too much, but I'm just kind of like. See, to me, for jasmine, it starts to get not only the fragrance of it, but for me, the texture of it. It's starting to get closer to a drier style of rice. So I'm not a big fan of it for that respect. I don't mind. Like I said, I think it's very. To my mind, it's very typical for Thai cuisine. So I kind of enjoy it. I enjoy it with Thai cuisine, but not so much, let's say, with Filipino cuisine. No, he says, I cannot read with my fingers. Maybe I have short thumbs. That could be. Turkeys like that, right hand only, never the left. Yes, they're smart. They're smart in there. Prabhupada says, a lot of cultures that eat long grain rice use a thin, flat bread to help eat the food with the rice. That is helpful. Not in Saudi, though. They don't really do that. It's actually very stressful in Saudi for me. Prabhupada says, I grew up in Sacramento and they grow all the rice there. Okay. Busa says that japonica, it says about the Cal Rose, and that there are hundreds of acres of swampy lands out there in Sacramento. I've only been to Sacramento once, and not too long, maybe like 5, 6, 7 years ago. I finally made it out there. All right, we should do some coffee because this is a coffee show, right? So let's make some. Maybe we'll make some Americano. Because, the Filipinos do not normally eat, or it's not typical for the Filipino to drink espresso. So it would be a little bit out of character. A lot of what they do, a lot of like the masses, a lot of the masses drink something called 3-in-1. Actually, I should probably do an episode about that. But the 3-in-1 is something typically made by Nestle or one of the big conglomerates where they have packets of instant coffee with sugar and cream. So 3-in-1 packet, right? So that's kind of why they call it 3-in-1. And they'll just make that quickly at home before they leave for work or start their day. And it's very, very, you know what? I remember buying some years ago and I thought it was relatively pleasant. And I mean, this is in the years when I didn't drink coffee. I didn't like coffee. So I thought it was kind of pleasant. So it's a softer, not too harsh of a coffee, but has sweetener and I'm sure it's artificial creamer. But that's what that's really popular. Still popular today. So let's make Americano over here. We've got our espresso machine. And why Americano? Because the other grinder is still not repaired. I have not taken the time to bother to mess with it. We've got what is my towel? As always, you want to make sure when you're making espresso, you want to make sure that your basket is nice and clean And then we're going to flush the group head. You can probably hear a little bit of the sputtering. Okay, that's kind of gone now. Okay, that's all right. All right, so we dosed some coffee here, as you can see. And in this particular case, you see there is a little bit of bouldering, so there's been some static. Look at that little sharp corner there. And then it's lower down here. So again, it's always about every time that we dose, it's always a little bit different. So we're always adjusting our technique. So in this case, I want to sweep to cover here, right? So I want to come back this way. And then I'm just bring a little bit there, right? But now I don't want to come too far because I might push too far over. So now I'm going to sweep around and push from here that way. And that's kind of filled in there. So I'm going to push it back this way. There's a little bit of exposure there. So come back. Again, I'm just trying to cover as I can. Now, we've figured out that there is, we don't want to mound it. We want to keep it relatively flat because this is a 3-shot basket from VST. So this is a bit of excess. We're going to get rid of the excess, and we're going to put it back into our hopper so we can reuse it, right? Which is important, especially if you're doing the dosing that I'm doing just by manual dosing rather than dose by weight. And yeah, so now we've got it. As you can see, it's kind of swept away. So I'm just going to trim it up a little bit, just make it look a little bit more uniform. And then whatever's left here, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that in the center because what I want, I'm going to compact it. The idea about leaving the center so that when you compact it with your tamper, it's going to push it down and maybe push it up. Maybe, right? This is, if I use the flat tamper, it just does that. Or you can use these like ridge tampers with chamfered edges. These are really these are my two favorite. I'm still okay with just using this very, very simple flat tamper. And as always, we want to put the tamper on top of our coffee and just use our opposing fingers to feel the level. Make sure that it's all level on all axes, right? Just by feeling it, and then pull it up. Take your grip. Right? The grip to me is always important. The grip and your ergonomics and your orientation of all of your body mechanics, to me, is super important. When we're training baristas, we put a lot of emphasis on this grip as well as the way you tamp, because to me, it's the most important thing. And not necessarily the most important thing for making coffee, but the most important thing for trying to minimize the potential for repetitive stress injuries due to making coffee. So we'll press that down, give a quarter twist. Now we do a quarter twist when it's all like nice and polished. You may see baristas, especially like older school baristas, and they may want to do a little bit more. That's just an embellishment and doesn't really do anything. Actually, it put a groove in there. I don't know why I put a groove in there. There must be some kind of, yeah. See here, look. See that groove? This is when you can tell, like you may have something wrong with your portafilter or with your tamper, because we look at our tamper right there, where that created that groove is a little bit of coffee that must have. So this, at some point, there must have been a little bit of wetness, and it got wet, or there was coffee on that wet spot, and now it's crusted on there, and I have to scrape it off with my thumb, with my finger, and actually it's stuck on there pretty good. And so that cut a little bit of groove. Will that affect the coffee? Perhaps. And we presume that, things will affect the coffee depending on, so now it's nice and clean. Now we won't have any grooving issues. But we're going to let that go. We're going to see what happens. And then, as always, you want to make sure that your wings are clean and the rim of the basket is clean before inserting into the group head. And we're just waiting for the water to boil. Oh, there we go. The water is nice and boily. Get our mug. And now we're going to pour into the water into the mug. I like to put it probably about there. just enough room for the water to, just enough room for the espresso to fill up the mug, right? Flush again just to make sure that the water runs clean. We're going to lock and load. And one thing we need to do before we start, after we lock and load, is remove the spout because we're going to pull directly into our cup. Now hit the brew button. Come into it, and now we're brewing. Ooh. I did not make any changes today. I didn't even check it. We're just going straight on the fly from last week. I think that looks good. Oh, not bad. Right, not bad. Whoop. Okay, that's some espresso Americano. I do like that a lot. Let's get some of this flan so we can have it together. We want to have a little bit of a nice slice. Let's go from here. I'll get the corner slice. Let's get the corner here. Oh. Oh, I need to get a beauty shot. Ah, perfect. All right, so we've got our coffee. We've got our flan. Right, the flan, it does look a little bit strange, right? Like, if you're used to Leche Flan, Filipino-style Leche Flan, that does look a little bit odd. So I get why some people might have been a little bit wigged out about it. And then our Americano, look at that. I've been babbling, and the Americano's holding, like it's starting a little bit thin there. Now it's starting to look a little bit thin there, but overall it's held up really well. And this, to me, is what when it comes to making Americano, this right here is an example of what I'm really looking for, right? This is what I want. As a barista, as someone that's, developing programs like a coffee program for a coffee shop, this is what we want to see. We want to see the crema holding. And as I'm talking, you're seeing that it's getting thinner there. So it is dissipating, but how long has it taken for it to dissipate? It's taken a bit of time. I want the Americano to look like a shot of espresso when you get it, right? And oh yeah, that's nice. That's nice. All right, let's see about our flan. Zoom in a little bit closer. Mackie says, I never had a flan. I need to try this. First of all, if you want to try it, use the recipe that I have down below. That's a good base point to start with. You can change the texture of the flan by varying the amount of egg yolks, right? So the Panlasang Pinoy recipe says 10 egg yolks. I use 8. So you can change it. If you want to make it thicker, you add more egg yolks. But yeah, give it a try. But I would say try the regular version first without the ube, right? See what it tastes like normally before trying the variation, right? The variation's nice. I mean, if you like ube, like I wouldn't use this as the first time trying Leche Flan. Focus. There we go. So you can see the texture, and really, it's super simple. It's really just those 3 ingredients mainly. All right, let's try. It has that ube flavor, which, to be honest with you, even though I grew up eating ube, like I'm not one that's terribly enamored by the whole like the ubeification of American of cuisine today. Like it's like ube is great. I don't need to have ube in everything. Like if you go to Trader Joe's, there's Ube pancakes, Ube pancake mix, which I've tried. My sister-in-law wanted to try it, so it's all right. It's all right. Like I'm not going to Trader Joe's to buy it myself. Actually, I just don't go to Trader Joe's because Trader Joe's has this practice of like, they intentionally put their stores in locations where there's insufficient parking. Like that's part of their criteria. They want to find a place that doesn't have as much parking as they need, so the parking lot's always full. And I'm just like, I don't want to battle with it. I'm like, I don't want to. Like I was gonna go get some pretzels the other day at this Amish market near where I live, and I drove there. I drove into the parking lot and I was like, you know what, man? It's just too crowded. I'm out of here. I left. I was like, I just can't do it anymore. I'm like, I mean, it's a nice combination, right? The creaminess, the egginess, and doesn't have the egg flavor, right? I don't like it when it has egg flavor to it. I want it to be just very creamy and smooth. I think the ube, no, that's not true. I was going to say, maybe the ube adds some kind of like coarser texture to it, but how could it? We're not using the actual tuber, we're using artificial flavoring, so. But the idea is that it should be smooth and kind of thick, but not terribly dense, not too dense. Like a medium density should be the ideal. To me, is the ideal Leche Flan texture. Well, I guess, yeah, that's pretty good. There it is. Coffee with flan with a lot of talk about rice, of all things. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's all that I have for you today. Back into, speaking of which, we will not probably have a live stream on Wednesday. I have to see the doctor Wednesday morning just for, I hope, a routine checkup. But who knows what he's going to find? But otherwise, we should have a somewhat normal schedule this week. But Wednesday probably will not have a live stream because my appointment with my doctor is like at 9 o'clock. So, Mackie says I used to occasionally go to Trader Joe's in Towson when I lived there, and parking. Yeah, they moved it, right? The Towson that was downstairs, right down there, was always kind of tough. They moved it over to Kenilworth. I don't know if you were here, but when they moved it. Still tough. And I'm like, I don't go there, man. It's like, well, like I'll go there if I absolutely have to. Like if somebody asks me to take them there or some reason, but on my own druthers, I won't go there. Just like I don't have the patience for that. All right. Well, that's going to be it for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Good to see all of you. Back in tomorrow with more of the Coffee Q&A. Hope you have a wonderful day or night out there in the world. And yeah, can't see you next time.